Electricast.
Tonight on NBC, Jimmy Fallon and Bozoma St. John host the incredible new competition show.
I hired 10 creatives from all walks of life. They will be battling it out to see who can impress the world's biggest brands.
This is a huge opportunity.
This is the battle for the next big idea.
This is not play.
We're spending millions of dollars.
I'm so excited to embark on this adventure with all of you.
May the best idea win!
On Brand with Jimmy Fallon, tonight on NBC.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and I am thrilled to be speaking with my next guest today. Her name is Jessica Summers. Jessica is a distinguished speaker, consultant, and author renowned for her work in empowering high-achieving Gen X individuals to transcend personal and professional challenges. With a unique blend of personal experience and professional expertise, she has dedicated her life to helping others find peace, power, and purpose. Drawing from her own journey of overcoming profound loss and adversity, Jessica inspires audiences worldwide with her transformative insights and practical wisdom. I am really excited to have Jessica with us today, and I am looking forward to diving into more about what she does. So, Jessica, welcome. It's such a pleasure to welcome you to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're here too. We got to talk a little bit briefly before and as well just a couple minutes before we started recording, but I'm so thrilled to have you here to discuss your entrepreneurial journey, your insights on overcoming adversity, because this is what it's about for this month of October, and what you're doing to help others find their peace, their power, and purpose. So with that being said, your work is deeply rooted in your own experiences of overcoming loss and adversity. Can you share a bit about your personal journey and how it led you to the work you do today?
Right, sure. Because it is exactly why I do what I do. Once upon a time, I was married with children. I was a fashion designer and had a boutique. And, I did the guidebook, right, to life. This is how you succeed, follow this path and everything is going to be fine and great and whatever. Well, that didn't happen. I mean, in the beginning it did. And I should say that I understood that I really did have a blessed life. I was living a life that I didn't ever think that I would be living. So with my second pregnancy, was the third trimester, I had some complications and I didn't do anything different, but it was a completely different pregnancy. And I preface that because we aren't really equipped to, when we're doing all the right stuff, right? And things happen. I mean, life happens, but what do you do when you think you're doing all the right things and things show up? So what showed up for me was I went back home and then had to go back to emergency. They had left a placenta behind. So I didn't see it then, but that was the beginning of the end of life as I knew it. It was just one infection after another, and I kept going back to the doctor, would get more medication, misdiagnosis, reactions to medication. So that kind of became my life, my existence. I went through postpartum depression, just so many things happening at you and to you, and all of a sudden you're in it and you aren't even really aware of how far it has just pulled you down until you're down. And, I don't look sick on the outside. So it's kind of perceived as either you're complaining or kind of what's your problem? Go to the doctor if you don't feel good, if something's right. But that was part of the problem, right? And that's why I kept scratching my head saying, but I'm doing all the right stuff. What am I doing wrong? So then you start internalizing it. And so fast forward, I kept going to the doctor. We really didn't get anything other than more medications. And I ended up getting addicted to my pain pills, spiral out of control, go to street drugs, ended up in a mental institution, had a complete breakdown, and I ended up homeless. So that is where my journey began. Originally, I tried to do all the things I was being told. Like my behavior was bad. Yes, I didn't know what to do. And I bring this up and preface this because we are so accustomed to bad behavior and calling out that bad behavior. I understood that the bad behavior was there, but let's get to the reasons why, which we never really did. It was more of a get your crap together, right? Because now that you have the labels with you, right? You are considered a drug addict. You're mentally ill because I ended up in a, mental institution, and no one would listen to how I got there. It was, here you are now with this behavior, so we're going to label you as such. And the way people treat it's actually mind boggling once you have those labels. And I understand now too why it is so difficult for a lot of people to get out of that, because they internalize what those labels mean, right? And the key is to understanding why you got there in the first place, right? So I would try to do the work that I was being told to do, and I would fail over and over and over because it wasn't the cause. I had been saying all along, but then also once I started to do the work, I stopped listening to outside influence and started to do the work on myself. And that's when I started, peeling back the layers and kind of understanding myself in my own, not only outside stigma, but the stigma and the self-loathing, the hatred really I had, because I also grew up learning and believing what those labels were, right? So I was treating myself just as bad as anybody else was until I started doing the work and understanding, especially, the way I grew up was depression. There is no such thing as depression. We don't show emotion. We deal with it, right? You suck it up and you push and you go. That's exactly what led me to pushing to my ultimate extreme. I didn't know how to do anything other than push, strive, go, more, do, push your way through. You can only go so far with that. So that learned behavior pushed me to the ultimate extreme. I started doing, like I said, once I stopped listening to outside influence and started doing the work on myself, that's when I went on the real, makes me emotional, real healing journey. Whew, I was just so unaware of who I really saw myself to be. I had no idea that I didn't really think that highly of myself. Like self-love, I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even know that was a thing, you know? And once I started doing the work, the childhood trauma, I had a lot of abandonment issues, emotional, physical, sexual, you know, abuse that I had stuffed down. And, you know, one way or another, and I see it now in so many people now too, is we either acknowledge that our childhoods weren't so normal, even if we thought they were, or we pretend that they were. because it's not just our immediate environment, it is the world that we grow up in. There are so many mixed messages that we receive without explanation. And then we think we're supposed to have it all figured out. Well, you're an adult now, figure it out. Well, you're still coming from that confused in a lot of instances. You're still coming from that place. We can intellectualize things all day long. But when there's still something missing or unhealed, we can say we want to go right and we'll end up going left. Right?
I love what you brought up. Like, you brought up three things I really wanted to touch back on. People's perception, basically, because they were judging you, because you said you were now, you had these labels now that people decided to give you. And maybe even yourself gave yourself those labels, right? Based on just society in general and how they look at people who have, that go through challenges in life. And we're not, and as that's unfortunate. And the second part you also talked about was being hard on yourself, like not being able, not even understanding that self-love was a thing, but doing all of the things really that were not supportive of you, but not knowing what that was, like not even understanding that. And then the third part was like really, as you were saying, normalizing an experience of growing up. We do that, right? Like, oh, that's how I grew up. That was normal. So unless you talk to other people and have a, conversation around what was considered normal, come to find out that maybe that was a normal experience that people experienced, but it wasn't exactly a healthy experience. There's the difference, right? Normal and healthy. So I love how you brought those up. I'm really excited, as I said, to be talking to you, because I think we can either use, and you've got such an incredible story. We can either use that to say, oh, like, I had such a horrible life, and so I'm entitled to act out, be reactive, not live a quality life, and blame the world for my circumstances, and blame the adults in my life that I didn't have the greatest childhood, and blame everyone else for everything that happened to me, including maybe the hospital for not taking care of me when, there were complications that could have been avoided. You could have gone down that road, but instead after having, again, you had to hit some sort of, I guess, rock bottom. We all do. We go through that, especially those of us who've come through trauma in our life, whether that's, again, you've had multiple traumas. So having to come through that and then being able to say, okay, now I have to figure something out, right? You decided you had to figure something out. And that's, why I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to have you on, because I wanted to talk to you about how you perceive a lot of different things. And first, I want to talk about your concept around helping others. And it's not necessarily, I would say, a concept, but your belief, your mission is helping others find peace, power, and purpose. So can you elaborate? Because I know, obviously, I think you were starting to go into that a little bit for me, can you elaborate on what those specific concepts mean to you and how you guide people towards achieving power, peace, and purpose?
So first of all, I can have a conversation now. And I think because of my own experience, I can right away. I mean, I think I've always had a bit of this, but I didn't really get to hone in on those skills until I went through that experience. Because I had some of this, I wouldn't even know what to call it, really. Maybe a heightened intuition. And then with my experience, and you put those together, I can really see and hear people. And with that, it is actually incredible too, once we dive into that and pull back the layers. Because, okay, let me go back a little bit. We don't really have we can't just push down certain things. If we're going to push things down, meaning I'm not going to deal with that. I'm going to pretend it's not there. Whatever we try to push to the side, if we start doing that, we push aside the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. So on the flip side of that, once we start acknowledging things, all of them, because think about this. We attach a story to everything. So if you only pull back half of it because you don't want to deal with the other, then you're missing half of the story. It takes the full story to become you, who you are, your purpose, your power, your peace. Those three things, that is you. That is all encompassing of you, the individual that you were created to be. So once we start pulling those back, it is a completely different way of life and being. You don't have to judge others, compare yourself. There is no competition because you are solid in your peace, in your power, in your purpose as a one and only individual that you were created to be. Imagine if everybody did that. You don't have to point the finger. You don't have to. There is nothing outside of you that you need to really concern yourself about when you take accountability for yourself. Because it also radiates out into your, not only yourself, your career, your relationships, it radiates out into all of it. When people start seeing the difference in you and how you behave, how you're showing up in a non-judgmental way, in a non-comparing way, in a non-competitive way, right? It allows other people to do the same. It's just like, I was having a conversation just with my dad about how some people won't smile at somebody because they're waiting for somebody to smile at them, right? It's like, what kind of story did we build up in our head to think that we have to wait for any of that? Show up. Imagine if we all started showing up. Smile if you want to smile. Be that person. It's like the golden rule, really. Treat people the way you want to be treated. It's really kind of simplistic when you think about it. But we've created so much nonsense and we grip onto that because of fear. And so much of it isn't even true. It's the story that we've created because we've needed it. We needed it to survive. We've needed it to achieve, to strive, to show up in the man-made illusion of this world, right? There is a completely different way of living, though, and we don't have to do any of that because we will all end up pushing ourselves to a limit that takes us one step too far if we don't know when to stop because we haven't been taught anything other than that. If you stop trying so hard to be someone you're not, you show up as yourself. You know your limits. You know when to stop. You know how to take care of yourself, right? And the self-love, imagine that too, where instead of using your experiences as, look what happened to me, you go, okay, that did happen. I'm going to nurture myself back to health, back to wherever I want to go, whatever I want to do in this life, because I deserve it just like anybody else. I'm special just like everybody else, right? It's a different mindset. Like we don't have to take away anything from anybody. And that's like that lack mentality, right? That's another thing that we've learned. We live in an abundant world where everything is readily available to anybody and everybody. Once you know that, once you accept that and stop trying to take it away from somebody else, right? If you think you have to take it away from somebody else, you will always think that and try to take it away from somebody else instead of having the mindset of knowing that you're enough, that there is enough, and there always will be.
Yeah, I love that. And you also, it's really about just leaning into joyfully living our lives, but it can be really super hard. But I love how you talked about acknowledging it, that there is no comparison and there is no competition, which is really important for us to understand that. And you're right. I believe we write our stories every day. In fact, every moment of our life is a paragraph to our story. And so we actually have the ability to write the story how we want it to go. We can either focus, like you said, on the negatives. We can focus on all the negatives that are going on around us. We can compare ourselves to others. We can think that we have to compete with other people. Or we can say, you know what, I stand out. because I am special just like everyone else. I am just as important as everyone else. I can have a life that I love living just like everyone else can have the life that they love living. If we take that time to actually step into, acknowledging that and being okay with it. Which brings me to my next question, because I know that you specifically specialize in empowering high achieving Gen Xers to navigate personal and professional challenges. So, what are some common obstacles that you have noticed that this group faces, and how do you help them overcome these challenges?
Well, like I said, we don't know when to stop. We've been conditioned to believe that we have to wear all of the hats, right? If you don't know your own limits and who you are, you will always seek and strive to do more, right? You don't know how to, as easy as delegating to somebody else, you don't know how to do that because you think, because it's a story that's been created without even really having an awareness around it until you become aware of it, right? Especially if you're in a higher position, you are trained to believe that you have to have it all figured out. So how do you know when to ask for help? When do you know how to hone in on your specialty and where you thrive at if you're putting all your energy out into all things? So that goes back again to getting to know like who you really are. Because once you know that, then you're solid. You're good at what you're good at, and you allow other people to be good at what they're good at. And that's when the magic happens because you co-create and you do it together. It doesn't matter if it's two people, if it's a team of people. When everybody is allowed to thrive in where they thrive in, then everybody else can do the same. But we've been taught to work so hard at being someone we are not without that verbiage, but that's exactly what it is, right? We have to push. Oh, I got to do that. I got to do that. Here, let's go back to the labels, right? If I'm a CEO or if I'm a president of a company, these are all the things that I have to do. Who came up with that? Where did that come from, right? What are you good at? Where do you need to put your energy and allow other people to be good at what they do? Right. Because that's when companies grow and thrive and expand, not by one person trying to wear all the hats. But this is where humility comes in. People are terrified in letting go of who they think they need to be in order to become the person that they really are. And that's where the tricky part is, because the stories that we tell ourselves are very believable. They have helped us to achieve everything up until now. So why would we go against it? Right? So that's why it is so important, and not necessarily with me, but to have someone like me to guide you and show you who you really are, what you can let go of. And yeah, it can be scary because, again, in some situations, that helped us to survive. And you're going to tell me to let go of that? Are you kidding me? Right? That's hard to do. But again, miracles happen on the other side of that. Moving mountains happens on the other side of that. Your wildest dreams happens on the other side of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, too, is it's letting go of the control. We have this idea that we actually can control things. And really, the only thing that we have power over control is ourselves and the things that we do. And we don't have control over everything. And that's the scary part. I think also the asking for help piece, I had to overcome. This is a challenge I overcame quite a while ago, but it was something that I learned. I had to learn for my own growth. And that was asking for help was not a weakness, it was a strength. But asking for help to me in the beginning was I was incapable of doing what I was doing. I was an imposter. I wasn't qualified to do what I do. Who do I think I am asking for help and something that I should know all the answers to? And it's like I had to realize that, first of all, that's a label that I'm saying that I cannot. I'm saying that I can't ask for help. I'm putting that label on me when I should really understand. And I came to understand that I'm human first, which means that as a human, I do need support. I do need that guidance. I do need community. I do need people to be surrounded by people who can help me with things that maybe it's their expertise, it's their superpower. And that frees up my time and my energy. And I had to learn that. But yeah, it was a difficult thing for me to do. So I completely can resonate with that whole piece of, for me, that's a self-care act of self-love when you ask for help, because then you're saying, hey, I might feel like you might be even saying to yourself, I might feel like I have all the answers, but I'm willing to allow somebody else to come in with a fresh perspective, even if I give them the instructions, and they might come back with something even better than I even expected and be like, oh, wow. And thank you, because I had some of my time back and some of my energy back. So being able to do that. So I appreciate that very, very much. In your life, I want to ask you this question because I know I am like really incredibly inspired by you. I feel like you're such an open book, which is so great because I feel like people resonate, at least myself, I know I resonate with people who really are okay with sharing their story and knowing that it's not something that defines who they are. It's just a part of their journey. I believe like just because of the things that happened in my past, it's not definitive of the person I am today. I'm using my past as a way to fuel my today in a positive way to help other people. And I think that's what you're doing. So I want to ask you personally, what is one of the most profound lessons that you have learned from facing adversity, and how has it shaped your perspective?
Ooh, wow. Would you mind repeating that again? My head just went.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. Yeah. What's one of the most profound lessons you've learned from facing adversity, and how has it shaped your perspective?
Yeah. Wow. You know, I I think my head is spinning because I really there's so much my everything that I have learned, I flipped it on its head. Right. So that's so hard to even there were so many non-truths in what I was gripping onto. So it's like, and where does that even start? So I will tell you this and what helped me kind of start looking into myself. So, like I had said, I had went to street drugs, and I was so tired of going, go to the doctor, do this, do that. My whole existence was being sick and tired and taking medication. So I stopped taking everything, pretty much went off the deep end. And in any case, I was a quote unquote functioning addict. And I had went and purchased enough drugs. This was kind of my routine of doing things. I would go and I would have enough to use then throughout the day for the morning, and then start the whole process over again. So without getting all into the deep, dark, and ugly, I'm bawling my eyes out. I know I have to make a change. I've tried to do it over and over by myself, and I keep getting stuck in this loop because I get put back on the medication that gets me sick, and then it hurts my stomach, and then I'm back on pain medication. Right. So I don't know what to do. And I'm not paying attention. I simultaneously did all of the drugs while I said, God, why would you want me to suffer so bad? And like I said, as I'm saying this, thinking it, I did enough drugs to, at the very least, have knocked me out cold, if not have killed me. And I heard him and I felt him, and he said, I don't. And I got up and I walked out. And to know without knowing that all of a sudden I had this kind of an okay to explore avenues that were other than the ones that I had learned to trust and believe. I think that was my biggest gift, awakening, lesson. I mean, one of the most profound moments that I've ever had in my life. I mean, and the list goes on, but I think that, yeah, like I said, everything that I knew for sure, because I'd also grown up learning that God was this scary, run and hide because you're bad, you're doing bad things. The last thing God wants is any of you, you know? And so all of a sudden, I'm giving kind of a green light, even my understanding of God. I was given the okay to explore every single what I know for sure without worry, without judgment, without fear. I mean, before that, it was spiritual warfare, really. The darkness and the place that I was in was outside of my understanding. And I mean, I was hopeless. I was in a place that you cannot rationalize. You can't, you just can't make sense of it. Right. So all of a sudden, again, here I am and I'm given this, like I said, a green light to go explore all of those things and the answers will come. And that meant like it was okay to start looking at myself, to not have that because it's bigger, right? It's bigger and it's all encompassing. The spiritual aspect of it, because I had this belief system without even knowing where and what and how big that belief system was, but it was everything. So if I was afraid of one area, I was going to be afraid of something else because the story is attached to everything, you know? So I don't know if that even came close to answering your
Oh my gosh.
question.
Beautiful, beautiful answer, actually. I think, as I said, I am really, I'm honored really that you are such an open book and willing to share because so many, especially women I've found are really super, super, I don't know if the word's quiet or they hide things like that because they feel that it makes them a bad person. It makes them someone who's flawed, who's broken. And I feel like we all have a past. And when you are willing to share your past with other people, you have no idea whose life you could possibly change. Like you just don't know. And that one person you talk to today, tomorrow, a week from now, that one thing that you say in that conversation, even like from this episode, when the listeners are listening to it, I know even just from what I've experienced listening to your story, that it's something that's powerful to say like, "Hey, you're not alone." Like we all have a past, we all have a story, and it's okay to share your past. Again, as I said, it doesn't define who you are unless, of course, you are allowing it to be that way. And you actually have the power to say no more to that and that you can change the story and rewrite the script and change the narrative and live a life that you truly love. So I loved your answer. I think it was amazing. And I just want to just talk about looking ahead now. I mean, because I feel like you've done so much. You've written your book. Your book is The Road to Now, From Tragedy to Triumph. You're helping your clients to, find their peace, power, and purpose, really from looking within, because I feel like the deepest and most profound transformations come from the inner work. So as someone who inspires people through your work or other people through your work, what excites you most about the impact that you're making and what's next for you in your mission to empower other people?
That makes me so emotional. I mean, with joy. Oh, so I'm speaking more and getting out on stages. I'm actually going to a conference in Paris in March, and it is kind of a meshing of spirituality and leadership and mental health and mental wellness, like just all of it's coming together with women that are change makers, right? And they are sharing their truth and they're standing up tall in that. Whew. Because enough hiding, right? Because that keeps us small. And as women, we are powerful. We are powerhouses, but we have learned to stay small. You know how many times I've been told, like, oh, you're worried too much. You're so this, you're so that. Calm down. It's like, I can see. Don't tell me to calm down. Right. So there was a lot of years I didn't have a voice. I didn't even have a voice to advocate for myself. I didn't matter. What I had to say wasn't even enough to get the help that I needed because it was too much. The whole story, just where did that even, what? That's too much. Here's a bunch of medication. You're bipolar. I don't even know if I brought that up. I was medicated for that, even though I was begging. I said, please stop giving me this medication. This is making me swing from the chandeliers and see things that aren't even here. I'm telling you, please stop. These are how these things happen. And it took me about 4 years before I actually got someone to listen to me. Because when you get medicated and you don't want to take it, guess what? You're being non-compliant. Don't even get me started on that. So it has taken me a while, right, to also stand in my own voice. So now that I have it back, I know what it is to be so afraid and so alone and hide behind a story that isn't even yours. It's somebody else's perceived who you are, what's wrong with you, and how we're going to fix you. And how many women have I seen get lost in that and give up or are no longer here outside of their choice, right? Just tired of being tired of being tired with nowhere to go. And we've been perpetuating the same things that we've been fighting against for so long. The going like this and yelling and screaming and pointing the finger and blaming the outside will never change because that's the way we've been doing it. It's never going to happen. It takes us all as the powerful individual to stand up in your truth. And when I see women do that, that's powerful. And guess what? We didn't have to take it away from anybody else. We didn't have to prove ourselves. It's not shameful. There's no guilt. And we didn't hurt anybody. And it comes from pure love. Imagine that.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, I love that. I am I just have to say thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your story so openly. Like I said, I really resonate with women who share their story because it helps me. My podcast really is a self-development tool for myself as well. People don't know that about me, but I listen to my guest episodes over and over again because I get strength from each and every one of you. So thank you so much. I appreciate what you do, helping other women, helping other people, I should say. Gen Xers, especially, if you really to dive into their own purpose in life, and it doesn't have to come from anywhere else externally. It comes from who you are, who you authentically are, who you want to be. So I've really loved learning about you, your approach to overcoming challenges. Your story is so incredible. Thanks again, Jessica, for being here with me today and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. And this is how we grow and expand. It's that we feed off of each other and we grow, right? You know things that I don't know and vice versa. And we don't have to be afraid of that or shameful or jealous or any of those things. We grow together. And I'm glad you said too, not just women, people, right? Because we don't get anywhere when we take anybody down. And we have to remember that, right? It takes all of us. So thank you so much for having me. I so appreciated this conversation. It was beautiful. I thank you.
Thank you so much. And to our listeners, if you would like to connect with Jessica or learn more about her work in empowering high achieving Gen X individuals, or just to get connected, get plugged in with her and her story, learn more about her, be sure to check out the show notes for her contact information. You don't have to go anywhere else to look for it. Remember, every small step that you take towards overcoming challenges and embracing your purpose brings you one step closer to the extraordinary life you are meant to live. Until next time, keep believing, keep dreaming, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
You deserve better health care, and so do we all. Medicine in America is a podcast that shares real stories of patients and doctors reshaping the future, because the revolution in care isn't coming, it's already here. Real stories, real change, a better future for healthcare.
Hi, it's me, Flo. Remember me from Ghost Hampton, the podcast? I was secretly in love with Lyle Hall. Well, now I'm dead and loving it. But let's talk about you. If you loved listening to Ghost Hampton, you can now spend the summer in the Hamptons. The original episodes are back, and now new episodes will be dropping every Friday. I may drop in too, just to make Lyle feel guilty. Ghost Hampton, the podcast, is now streaming everywhere.